Two top Impact Wrestling stars' contracts have expired with their future up in the air with the company. Plus, we have an update on the location for the Bound for Glory pay-per-view in October. All this and more in today's Impact Wrestling News. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everybody's doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of Impact Wrestling. So let's talk about two possible very high-profile departures from Impact Wrestling. That being Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers, because the Good Brothers are now officially, reportedly, free agents after their contracts with Impact Wrestling have expired. Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows are no longer contracted to Impact Wrestling as of this past weekend, according to a report from PW Insider's Mike Johnson. Now, sources have stated that the Good Brothers' deals with Anthem's own company, Impact Wrestling, expired following the company's July 16 television tapings in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, despite this, the duo remain committed to working some extra dates for Impact Wrestling, provided, though, it fits with their New Japan Pro Wrestling schedule, with Anderson and Gallows expected to keep working for the time being for Impact Wrestling. Now, becoming free agents would mean the Good Brothers are now free to field offers from other promotions should they see fit. Fightful reported last week that Anderson and Gallows would remain in Impact Wrestling until at least late summer, though their deals were originally believed to expire on the 17th of July. Additionally, the tag team is committed to New Japan Pro Wrestling until at least Wrestle Kingdom 17, which is January 2023. Now, Anderson and Gallows, of course, have been with Impact Wrestling since signing multi-year deals with the company in July 2020, having been released by WWE at the pandemic's onset 3 months prior. They currently reign as Impact World Tag Team Champions, having started their second run with the belts in June. So this is quite an interesting situation, and to be honest, it's one that we kind of knew. We knew that it was coming anyway. We knew that the Good Brothers contracts were coming up. We spoke about it a couple of times actually here on the channel previously, hadn't we? Saying that we knew that when the Good Brothers signed with Impact Wrestling back in 2020, they signed 2-year deals. When Slammiversary came up in July, the discussion was, what's going on with these contracts? I think they'd done some media calls as well, and Carl Anderson had explicitly said, yep, contracts are expiring, we haven't signed new deals. But it was quite a strange assumption, because when they were winning matches and holding on to tag team championships, it was kind of a thought process of, well, at the very least, they've got some kind of agreement. Now, coming out of Slammiversary, it was reported that they had, whilst their contracts had expired, they committed to certain dates, and that was going to be the case. And that still is the case, it must be said, with Impact. Just because their contracts have expired, they're not going anywhere for now. As Fightful said, Anderson and Gallows are going to remain in Impact Wrestling until at least the late summer. This would imply that there is some big plan or some angle that they are involved in. Of course, we know the relationship they have with Impact Wrestling's Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore. We know the relationship they have with Access TV as well. They've done other stuff for Access TV whilst being under contract with Impact Wrestling. So there's a lot of goodwill there, certainly. Goodwill for the Good Brothers. Obviously, now their New Japan Pro Wrestling bookings are taking precedent. If they're needed for New Japan Pro Wrestling dates, they're going to take priority over Impact because they're not contracted to have Impact as the priority. Again, you have to cast your mind back to when they actually signed with Impact Wrestling back in 2020. At the time, it was considered a bit of a coup, really, for Impact to get these guys fresh off WWE. There was a little bit of hostility between them and AEW, particularly them and the Young Bucks, by them choosing WWE over AEW in 2019 when they re-signed with the company. Of course, that's that was water under the bridge now, because they have appeared for AEW since then as part of the Impact Wrestling crossover, that angle with Kenny Omega and Don Callis, etc. But it was considered a bit of a coup by Impact Wrestling at the time, and Impact Wrestling, I think, got that deal done by, one, paying good money, but also giving them a lot of creative freedom for their angles, also giving them a lot of opportunities, as I mentioned, to work other projects with Access TV, also giving them opportunities when it came to Fight TV and Talking Shop Mania and the projects that they've done with that, offering Impact Wrestling talent for that, including Scott D'Amore, who actually did appear in one of the specials as well. But also, the contract at the time said that they had this clause in there saying that when travel started to open back up, they would be able to work for New Japan and they would be doing dates of New Japan. Of course, the pandemic was what it was, and it's only been really in the last couple of months that actually travel has actually opened back up to Japan. So they're starting to do more and more dates with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I assume, and I think this is the way that it's going, of course, they're part of the Bullet Club once again. My assumption is that once they've done all of their commitments to Impact again at the end of this summer, then they'll become full-time, fully contracted talents with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't know if I see them returning to AEW, honestly. Their time in AEW as part of the crossover was just a little bit strange, actually, and a little bit bizarre, to be honest. I mean, again, they formed the faction and they had their moments, but it always felt like they were the outsiders, if you will, and not in a good way. And it feels like they've got more momentum in New Japan with, Kyle Anderson competing in singles matches, winning singles titles there. And I think that's going to be their priority going forward. But if that is the case, because of Impact Wrestling's working relationship with New Japan, it doesn't necessarily mean the Good Brothers won't stick around. And maybe that's the case too. Maybe they're just keeping their options open at the moment. Again, they're committed to New Japan Pro Wrestling until Wrestle Kingdom next year. They might, and I wouldn't be shocked if this happens, it must be said. I wouldn't be surprised if they go, actually, you know what? We're committed to New Japan until January 2023. Whilst we're not going to sign anything with Impact, and we don't need to sign anything with Impact to stick around, because we know Impact Wrestling's relationship with talent when it comes to working on a handshake deal or working on a per appearance deal or just figuring things out as they go along. It happened with W. Morrissey. It happened with a lot of people working without contracts. There are people still there that work without contracts in Impact Wrestling. That might be a similar situation as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if, whilst at the moment they're factored in until the end of the summer, I wouldn't be surprised if they stick around until January next year and go, you know what? When our New Japan commitments are up, our Impact commitments can be up at the same time, and then we'll take a step back. Then we'll consider, okay, what are we going to do here? What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? Do we want to stick around with Impact full time? Do we want to stick around with New Japan Pro Wrestling full time? Do we want to sign with AEW full time? Heck, are we even going to consider going back to WWE, or could we go to Ring of Honor, Tony Khan's Ring of Honor, and do something there? That might be a little bit different. We haven't really done that before. There will certainly be options for them, and maybe they're just waiting for all of those things to line up. So just because their contracts have expired, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be going anywhere anytime soon, but it is certainly going to be a big story that I think will rumble on throughout the summer, certainly. Bound for Glory, of course, Impact Wrestling, or one of Impact Wrestling's biggest pay-per-views of the year. It was always presented as Impact's version of WrestleMania, especially in the TNA days. I don't know if it's still the biggest pay-per-view. I always feel like Slammiversary at this point is bigger and has more sort of momentum behind it, but still it's presented as the biggest night of the year for Impact Wrestling. Well, we do now know the location for Impact Wrestling's next pay-per-view. They will be heading to the northeast of the United States, because Fightful reported on Wednesday that the previously announced Bound for Glory pay-per-view now has a destination, as they will head to Danbury, Connecticut on Saturday, October 8th. Now, they didn't have the actual location for the show, where it will actually emanate from, actually the building as it were, only that the promotion will be there for several days, presumably for their traditional post-pay-per-view TV tapings as well. It will be their first visit to the city since a 2010 house show. So Impact Wrestling has yet to confirm the news, but the way that the schedule looks like for big events for Impact Wrestling, you've got the Emergence Impact Plus special, which is on Friday, August 12th. We do actually have the spoilers for all of the televisions heading into that, but we won't talk about that today. We might save that for tomorrow. We have the Second City Slam TV taping, which is on Saturday, August 13 in Chicago, Illinois. Of course, Impact Emergence is in Chicago, Illinois as well. We've got the Lone Star Stampede Dallas TV tapings, which is Friday, August 26 and Saturday, August 27. Then we have Bound for Glory, which is Saturday, October 8th in Danbury, Connecticut. We have the Overdrive Impact Plus special, which is going to be Friday, November 18th in Louisville, Kentucky. And we've got Kentucky Chaos TV taping, which is going to be the following night on Saturday, November 19th in Louisville, Kentucky. So Impact Wrestling's got quite a few big events coming up throughout the year. As I mentioned, a big pay-per-view and Bound for Glory, and the rest Impact Plus specials. But they've got themselves pretty much booked up for the remainder of the year. We don't really know what's going to be happening in December. Usually it's Final Resolution or something like that, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's the location for Bound for Glory. Let me know in the comments if you're going to be considering going, if you're from Connecticut or you're from the Northeast or anything like that. Anyway, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on the Good Brothers contract situation. I'm sure you've got plenty of opinions on that, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.